Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Vanessa and today I want to show you guys how I made my Nuka Cola shirt. To get started with making the shirt, I printed out the Nuka Cola logo label thing and just making sure that it was sized properly to the shirt that I was going to be putting it onto, as well as just sized properly for my frame as well. And I'm using an X-Acto blade to do this, but you can certainly use scissors for this step too if you'd like. Also, word of caution, if you guys are going to be using X-Acto blades or just any knife, scissor thing, anything, please be careful when you're using it. We don't want anyone to get stabbed today. Once I had the base for the logo stencil cut out, I began transferring it onto a thick piece of paper. Here I'm using cardstock, but you can certainly use cardboard if you'd like. So for this step, I really recommend that you use an X-Acto blade as opposed to scissors, because for this we want to have those nice, fine, detailed lines without any like extra cuts anywhere that we don't need. It'll come in handy later whenever we start painting, so. Once I was done making the stencil, I put a small piece of cardboard inside the shirt to act as like a barrier so that the paint didn't seep through and stick to the other side. And just in case if I were to ever knock the stencil out of place, I just put some painter's tape down just to secure the stencil to the shirt. To paint the shirt, I am using some soft fabric ink from Fabric Creations. I'm using Ganache, Gray Mist, and Tangerine. This is actually the same brand of fabric paint that I used for my Ash cosplay. I used this paint for her pants, so that way I wouldn't have to sew anything. If you're interested in buying any of these paints, I will put a link down below if you'd like to check it out. For the Nuka Cola logo, I used the Gray Mist paint and I just kind of brushed it on and then like dabbed it throughout the stencil. I was keeping in mind that my stencil isn't, adhered to the shirt, so I don't want the paint to seep out from underneath, so definitely be careful with the amount of paint that you use. We don't want any bleeding edges. Once the logo was all done, I let it dry for about a day before moving on to my favorite thing to do, weathering. And to get started with weathering, I put a larger piece of cardboard inside the shirt, again so that the paint wouldn't seep through and stick to the other side of the fabric. To begin weathering, I started with the brown paint, and I wanted to make sure to really focus on, like any creases in the fabric, as well as, the seams and all that. Just anywhere that's dirt and grime and blood maybe would build up over time, and I just went from there. To paint the shirt, I'm using two different techniques, a wet brush technique and a dry brush technique. The wet brush technique is where you just put some paint into a container and then you water it down. So that way whenever you apply it to the shirt or whatever it is that you're painting, it kind of fades more and it goes more places, if that makes any sense. It also just smooths out the paint that you're putting on, so it doesn't leave any sort of, like texture or anything. It just like goes. Again, for this process, you really want to focus on anywhere that would, just get dirtier. So you want to focus on like the bottom of the shirt, as well as the armpits and like around maybe the neckline a little bit and like to the shoulders. You just want to focus on anywhere that you think that you'll just like wipe dirt and blood and stuff off onto. When using the dry brush technique like you see me doing here, I found it to be really helpful to kind of mark wherever it is that you want the dirt to be in that one spot, and then you kind of just take it and just like spread the paint all around. And this is definitely reliant upon the like texture and the material of the fabric that you're using, so definitely use that to your advantage when you're using the dry brush technique. Oh, also for this step I forgot to mention that you can use your hands if you wanted to, or you can use some cheap paint brushes like I'm using here. Emphasis on cheap, don't use your nice paint brushes for this, because as you can see I am definitely abusing this paintbrush, so don't use your nice ones. Once I had a good layer of the brown paint all over the shirt, I went in with that orange paint to start kind of bringing out the highlights and just adding more stains, kind of like rust, but not quite rust because it's a shirt. And with this paint, I'm using the same techniques that I used for the brown paint, and I'm just really choosing places that I want to highlight a little bit more. I just want like a pop color here, or I want a pop color there, just pretty much wherever I wanted it to be. To add an extra effect to this shirt, I used some diluted paint and I just kind of flicked it onto the shirt just to kind of give it a little bit more dimension. Make sure you do this in a place that is safe if like paint gets splattered elsewhere. You can see here that I have some cardboard just to like kind of lightly protect my wall that I have behind. But once I was done, I did double check the wall and my ceiling openings and just the surroundings just to make sure that I didn't accidentally splatter any paint anywhere. And with all of that, the painting was done. So now it was time to heat set my shirt. You should always follow the directions for the fabric paint that you're using. For the one that I'm using, it says to let the paint dry for 24 hours and then iron it with a pressing cloth, and then let it continue to sit unwashed after ironing for 3 days afterwards. And once that's all said and done, you can just wash it like normal. And finally, with the ironing, heat setting, and all that taken care of, the shirt is now done. I'm so happy with how the shirt turned out. I've been wanting to make a shirt like this for quite a while, so it was pretty nice to finally get it done. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching today's video. I hope that you either learned something new, or maybe you got inspired, or maybe you're making a shirt like this yourself. No matter what, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments below. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see some more content like this. I appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you guys again soon.